Hi, my name is Samantha Lucy, and my report was on the Sioux Wars. The Sioux Wars detail the last stand of a people attempting to keep their culture, way of life, and native lands. The whole ordeal is lumped into the title Sioux Wars, but actually consisted of several different incidents, including the Groton Massacre in 1854, the Fetterman Fight in 1866, the Battle of Rosebud in 1876, the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876, and the Wounded Knee Massacre in 1890. The first incident occurred soon after the signing of the Fort Laramie Treaty in 1851. The amount of travel along the Oregon Trail was increasing, which worried these settlers as they passed through Lakota territory. In order to ensure their protection, the federal government established two forts along this trail, Kearney and Laramie. This, combined with the Fort Laramie Treaty, helped ensure that white settlers were granted safe passage along the Oregon Trail. There were no conflicts from this until immigrants accused some young Lakota men of stealing their cow. The settlers informed Lieutenant John Groton, who took a group to the Lakota village, to arrest the man that was accused of killing the cow. The conflict resulted in part by misunderstandings, led to the Lakota killing all of Groton's troops in retaliation. In response to this, General William Harney took 600 troops to the same village and killed about 100 people. Harney further established himself in Sioux homelands by pushing into Lakota territory and creating Fort Randall on the Missouri. There was a period of peaceful cohabitation while America was dealing with the Civil War from 1861 to 1865. The next conflict occurred when immigrants violated the Fort Laramie Treaty by making a path right through the Plains territory. The Oglala Tetons, Hunkpaka Tetons, and Brule Tetons joined the North Cheyenne and Northern Arapaho and led attacks and raids on the patrols and migrants along this path. In order to clear up the misunderstandings, Red Cloud and other chieftains met Army officials at Fort Laramie to discuss this newly developed trail. Not all of the tribes agreed to this treaty, and in 1866, Red Cloud and Crazy Horse led the Lakotas in what would become known as the Fetterman Fight in the Wyoming Territory. Most of the casualties which resulted came from Captain Fetterman's side, which led to the public crying out for retaliation. Congress opted for another treaty with the warring tribes. Red Cloud signed the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868, which promised an abandonment of the Bosman Trail forts. This treaty also formed a large reservation around the Black Hills, which quickly became occupied by Red Cloud and Lakota bands. Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and Gall continued to resist the treaty and occupation of their native lands. In 1874, the gold rush led people into Pahasapa, or the Black Hills, which violated the 1868 Laramie Treaty. Leaders of the Lakota, Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, quickly rose to defend the Sioux territory. To help reduce the hurt of this action, the government offered to purchase this land from the Sioux, which was rejected by them. After this rejection, the government demanded that these Sioux people report to an agency or they would be considered dangerous. Again, this was rejected by the Sioux. War broke out between the federal government and Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. Several Bluecoat generals started a three-pronged advance from Fort Ellis in Montana, Fort Laramie, and Fort Lincoln in North Dakota. They came toward the south of Rosebud Creek. The resulting battle on June 17, 1876, bared that name, the Battle of Rosebud, and was led by Custer's 7th Cavalry and Crazy Horse with both Sioux and Cheyenne. Custer was overwhelmed, and all his men and him included were killed. This was the last major victory for the Native American forces. After this victory, the Sioux and the Allied forces disbanded and went back to their smaller tribes. The Army hunted down these disbanded groups fervently, leading to the surrender of Crazy Horse at Fort Robinson. Crazy Horse was later killed in 1877. After this, Sitting Bull and his allies fled to Canada, though they later returned in 1881. This return by Sitting Bull marked a surrender at Fort Buford, where after he was taken to the Standing Rock Agency. He was killed in 1890 for resisting arrest. The Battle of the Little Bighorn resulted in the annexation of the Black Hills from the Great Sioux Reservation on February 28, 1877. In one last conflict, the government sent General Nelson Miles to intercept a band of Native Americans. When they reached this camp, Bigfoot and other chieftains met with these army officials. A rifle was accidentally discharged, and American troops began to shoot, killing 150 people. This would later be called the Wounded Knee Massacre. The almost 40-year battle to preserve their culture and lands was over. With their way of life stripped from them, the reservation era began.